NewsRadio is awesome. Good evening, Rhoda. It is Wednesday, September 12th. And I'm going to talk to you today about my very favorite show of all time. It's called NewsRadio. NewsRadio was on NBC from 1995 to 1999, and it had 5 seasons. And the whole story of NewsRadio basically is a story of the producers and writers and directors and actors, like, just hating the network and all of their demands. The style of NewsRadio that worked the best was when they got to do single episodes that weren't connected to anything else. They'd already established the characters really well, and they had very unique and interesting interactions with each other, and the writers could write the characters very well, and the actors could play them very well, and they were all totally comfortable with that. So the best episodes are the ones where you get, like, just a total standalone story, that none of it has repercussions on other episodes. It's just, you know, 30 minutes of hilariousness. But because of the success of Friends and other shows like that, NBC really wanted them to have, you know, big episodic arcs where you want to tune in next week because you want to see what happens to the characters. When pressed with those demands, the writers did really interesting things. Like, NBC wanted to have a night where they had 3 weddings and a funeral, and so they assigned a wedding and 3 funerals to the different shows, and NewsRadio got a funeral, so they had to write a funeral episode. But instead of just writing an episode about a funeral, because, you know, some person would have to die, and it would have to be grave and whatever, and they'd have to try to find out a way to make it funny, instead of that, they had an episode that was called Rat Funeral, which is exactly what it sounds like, but times, like, 50. And there's also great moments, like, there's an arc that Lisa has where she wants to have a baby, and Dave doesn't want to have a baby, but he does want to have a baby, but he wants to talk about getting married, and he doesn't necessarily want to get married, but he wants to talk about being married, and he thinks that they should get married before they talk about having kids, and Lisa's like, well, that's an outdated notion, this is the 1990s, we can have a kid, we don't have to be married. And this goes on for several episodes until, at one point, she just, like, turns to Dave and is like, you know, I don't think I want to have a kid anymore. Just the absurdity of the show is one of my favorite things. I mean, there's a NewsRadio in space episode. There's a NewsRadio, like, what if the NewsRadio cast were, like, on the Titanic? There's all kinds of weird stuff. There's a weird, like, dream episode where everybody keeps having these weird, like, nightmare things in the middle of the day. And there's this sad, sad moment when this old man's, you know, daydream hallucination is just that everybody in the office knows him and likes him. And it's so sad, but it's so funny. The ensemble cast is just the best ensemble that could ever exist. I mean, they're all just amazing. And they work so well together, and they're all so funny. I love absurdist humor, and I love when you can just suspend your disbelief so much that you allow yourself to experience humor. Like, you have to open yourself up to it. And NewsRadio does a great job of building toward that. Like, in the first season, it's not really, really absurd, but as it goes forward, eventually in the 4th season, it's basically like a cartoon with live-action characters. And it's just the funniest damn thing ever! I love everything about NewsRadio, except that it ended, and except that Phil Hartman died. Every single episode of the whole series makes me laugh. Like, there's not an episode that I can watch that isn't gonna make me laugh out loud. And I've seen them many times now. I think that's it for today. You should watch NewsRadio because it's fantastic. There are several seasons available to stream on Netflix. I don't think that the 4th and 5th seasons are on there, which is really lame. But the 4th season is probably my favorite. You should definitely start with the 1st season though, because it sort of like builds into the complete absurdity that it is in the 4th season. Watch the show and laugh because it's friggin' hilarious, and I will see you tomorrow.